The SW20 Toyota MR2 is an iconic Japanese legend. In fact, the MR2 was the first Japanese mid-engine production car. There were two variations of the MR2 made available to the US market: the naturally aspirated version powered by a 2.2-liter 5S FE, and the other more popular turbocharged model powered by the famous 2-liter 3S GTE. The 3S GTE produced around 200 brake horsepower and an impressive 200 pound-feet of torque. Such impressive numbers of the era rocketed the MR2 from 0 to 60 in around 6 seconds with a quarter-mile time of a whopping 14.5 seconds. Over time, more powerful variations of the 3S GTE were released by Toyota in other models, such as the Celica GT4 and the Toyota Caldina. With all that being said, why would anyone want to ruin this car? But are they really being ruined though? Let me explain. So today's a very exciting day. As you guys can see behind me is the MR2. We've successfully removed the wiring harness from the MR2. Right here is the wiring harness. So this harness is the MR2 body harness. This harness is going to get sent to Hux Racing. He's going to merge this harness to the RSX Type S harness, and then the harness will be good to go in the MR2, and then the wiring for the K-Swap MR2 should be good to go. If you've been watching the channel for a while, then you probably know by now that I'm K-swapping my MR2. Although some people might say that I'm ruining this Japanese classic, in my opinion, I'm making it better. For the power goals of around mid 500 wheel horsepower, a K-swap just makes sense. Of course, the option to swap the block to a 5S block is still a very good option. However, that would also require building the engine and would essentially still take away from the purity of the 3S that came with this car. However, the purpose of this video is not to trigger any purists or start an argument of which is better. The truth is that the 3S GTE and Honda's K-Series engines are all great options for the MR2, and with the abundance of aftermarket support, it all boils down to your personal preference. As you guys may have seen, this car is quite the project. It's going to take a lot of work to get it to where I want it to be, but that's where the fun in projects are, right? So of course we're going to address paint and everything else, body work that needs to be done, but those will come in future videos, so stay tuned for those. One of the things that I love about the K-Swap in the MR2 is that it opens up so much space in this engine bay. So the K-Swap sits a little bit further towards this firewall, and I wonder how that affects suspension geometry and drivability. Now, a lot of people say that MR2s are notorious for snap oversteer, so I'm really curious to see how the K-Swap will affect the drivability and the suspension geometry of the MR2. With the body harness completely removed from the MR2, it was time to get it sent out to get merged to the Type S harness. Hopefully we get the harness back as soon as possible, because once we do, we'll be one tiny step closer to getting the K-Swap completed. So now that the harnesses are packaged and ready to go, we could go ahead and continue working on the MR2. With the harnesses packaged and ready to go, I continued to work on the MR2. I also freed up some space in the engine bay by removing components we're no longer going to need. While at it, I decided to remove the rest of the engine harness from the chassis. So one of my favorite things about the K-Swap is the amount of space it opens up in the engine bay. So a lot of the connectors and things that we have in here, we won't really be needing anymore since we won't be throwing the 3S back in here. So we can just go ahead and get rid of all that stuff and open up a lot of the space in the engine bay. So as you guys can probably see, I'm pretty limited for the amount of space that I have in here. So a lot of the heavy lifting is going to be done at a friend's shop. However, we're just going to pull everything out that we can in the meantime, so that once we get it to the shop, it'll be a really quick process to get this engine pulled out, get the K-Series put in, and then we could bring the car back home and then start working on the turbo section or turbo build. Before we go any further, I'd like to give a huge shout out to today's sponsor, SEMrush. SEMrush is a marketing tool that can help you to grow your online visibility faster. Let's say you run a small business, a Fortune 500 company, or maybe even just have a startup in mind. Well, SEMrush is an essential tool that can take your business to the next level. Trusted by over 7 million users, it's no wonder why SEMrush is utilized by 45% of all Fortune 500 companies. We're talking big names like Nike, Tesla, and Walmart, just to name a few. SEMrush takes the guesswork out of growing your business by compiling all your analytics in one spot. No more switching back and forth between marketing channels just to run reports. With SEMrush, it's all in one place. If you're serious about growing your business, then click the link below to check out SEMrush. Oh, and here's the best part, guys. They're so confident that you'll love their platform that they even offer a free trial. Get it while it lasts, guys. Click the link below to take your business to the next level. You guys can probably see from here, the car came with some pretty good parts so far. There's already a HKS super sequential blow-off valve, a side mount intercooler. I'm not sure how much power that's going to be able to hold, but I guess we'll see once we go turbo. And there's a few other parts in here that I definitely want to clean up, like this heat shield here. You can see at the bottom right there, it's kind of rusted. So we're going to get that painted and get everything cleaned up. But of course, we have to pull the engine out of here first to be able to do all of that. With day turning to dusk and the Florida mosquitoes out for blood, also feeling accomplished with what we achieved so far, I decided to pull out the rest of the harness out of the MR2 and then call it an evening. So as you guys can see, there's boxes everywhere. In this box, we have two front lips for the MR2, a OEM style and a Aeroware style. So I'm gonna choose between which one I want. This box has side skirts. I also have new belt moldings for the MR2. As you can see, these are really torn up. And we have new taillights coming for the MR2 as well. As you can see, these Zenkis are in really bad condition. You can see there's like spider cracks all in them. So we have some new taillights coming for the MR2. Can't wait to show you guys those. So for the most part, the engine is now disconnected from the chassis. All of the harnesses are out. The only things that are connecting it now are a couple of the coolant hoses, the fuel lines, and the shifter cables from the transmission. But other than that, it's fully ready to be dropped out if we wanted to drop it out. Of course, we're not going to drop it out in here because, as you guys can see, I'm working with limited space. But pretty much with everything disconnected, now all we need to do is get it to the shop and get the engine dropped out. So I suspect it'll probably be a couple weeks until we get all the parts that we need back from Huckster Racing. Maybe sooner, we'll see. I've never really ordered anything from them before, but I've heard that they're like K-Swap, MR2 Masters, them and a couple other companies out there. So service is really good, so at least that's what I've heard. So hopefully we'll get the parts that we need back soon, and then we could get the engine and get it all over to the shop, swap the 3S out for the K24, which we're making some really good way on the MR2 right now. We're also gonna have to figure out fuel delivery, but that will probably be once we get everything out and see how it goes. I'm actually thinking about removing the stock fuel tank and running a fuel cell, but we shall see. The only thing that I don't like about the MR2 is that in case you ever want to change the fuel pump, you have to drop the fuel tank. I wouldn't imagine if I put a brand new fuel pump in there that it would fail anytime soon. However, you just don't know. So I kind of like the ease of access of having a fuel cell and probably an inline fuel pump, but we'll see how it goes. Definitely placement will be an issue, weight distribution. I like that the MR2 fuel tank actually runs along the middle of the car, so that's pretty cool. However, you know, we'll see what the weight savings are with a fuel cell versus a stock fuel tank and take it from there. But of course, we need to get the engine and get everything else sorted out first. Then we'll deal with fuel delivery and just go from there. Guys, and just like that, we've reached the end of today's video. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you did, be sure to smack that thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more videos just like this one. So I'll see you guys next time. Peace.